While there's likely a great consensus that Moana is one of the best Disney movies they've made in the new millennium, some may not realize just how popular it is. If you look at streaming charts, basically since Disney Plus launched, Moana has managed to stay in like the top 10 of most streamed movies across all platforms for most of this decade, let alone Disney Plus. Substantially more than either of the Frozen movies. So it's not surprising that they would eventually do a Moana 2, or that it is the first of the new age of Disney hits to get the live-action remake treatment. If you don't count that Frozen season of Once Upon a Time. Though for as much as you might not like it, that season might be the reason why they haven't pulled that trigger yet. And honestly, I didn't think it was that bad. The villain was, though. She was laughably terrible. Anyway, but then I heard that Moana 2 was originally slated to be a Disney Plus series, and my expectations dropped. I heard that the songs were not going to be written by Lin-Manuel Miranda, but instead by the people who made the unofficial Bridgerton musical and nothing else, and my expectations dropped. I actually heard some of the songs before the film, and they were not wish bad, but they continued the trend of seeming to come from people who were inexperienced to separate musical songs from pop songs, because they were still essentially a lot of lyrics with mild variations on a single generic sentiment without a lot of integrations of character or story, and my expectations dropped. So upon actually seeing the movie, I was still disappointed. Because somehow, after all of that, I did not expect the effort that they would take to make this feel like not a Disney Plus series would be basically nothing. Maybe to improve the animation quality a little bit, but still ultimately using not their home studio, but that was basically it. The spoiler-free premise of Moana 2 has Moana going out to neighboring islands to try to find more people, has a vision that one specific island will make that easier for God reasons, and so will go on a journey to find that one specific island and take a new crew because it's going to be an exceptionally long journey. At some point Maui's there, that's pretty much it. And when I say this felt like a series, I mean that the first 20 minutes is essentially a series pilot. It's TV structure, TV pacing. We then get basically 2 more episodes with a season finale at the end. It is exactly all of those Disney sequels that were pilots for series back in the 90s and 2000s. Now, I'll admit that when you go back on the original Moana, it also can feel a little episodic. No, the big underwhelming issue is more or less the same issue that has plagued every single Disney film except Encanto for the past 5 years. That it has crappy, useless side characters. Moana's new crew, while nowhere near as bad and pointless in The Dwarves and Wish, can't help but feeling like they just don't need to be there, starting with her really not selling how badly she actually needs them. If she didn't need them the first time, then why would she need them now when she's a genius wayfinder? We haven't properly sold the urgency of maintaining food or upkeeping the boat over a long period of time. I know this may be sacrilege to even suggest, but it's why I honestly wish they had done what they did in Raya. Since the entire purpose is exploring islands and finding people, why did we not explore islands and basically pick up a passenger at each island on our way to do something bigger? By nature of that premise, you would have had to give each island something distinct about it, and how you meet new people is actually a really big tell of your character, as opposed to these 3 just having been living in the village the whole time and then just being pulled along. But really, they just don't leave a very strong impression and are just not that compelling. The one grumpy farmer, Kele, gets a laugh once in a while because he's grumpy and he's constantly complaining he doesn't want to be there. And I related to that too much. What somebody could say about Moana 2 is that it is a classic adventure. It's about what we're doing or exploring, and it's not a message movie by any extent, if that's what people have hated in modern movies. But there often is still an emotional motive or internal struggle that really makes you care about the lead's journey. In the original, it's pretty classic that Moana's desire to do and be more, but it's also because she's literally starting at the bottom that it gives her upward trajectory when giving her a specific thing that she wants to learn how to do. Looking back at the first Moana, it's genuinely impressive how simple it is, and hence why they probably underestimated how easy it would be to keep this movie simple. But the just as crucial element that's missing here is failing to have compelling lead character dynamics, and that actually includes Encanto. In recent movies, they have a lot of their main characters kind of doing their own thing, splitting up core duos, or having them interact with way too many characters. I haven't seen a tight 2 duo since the original Moana. This is also why seeing some of the original storyboards of Wish are so heartbreaking. You were so freaking close In the first one, it's just Maui and Moana for most of the time, and how they work off each other is absolutely hilarious when they're technically working against each other. The relationship itself is part of the journey, and it's why failing the side characters is such a big problem. We don't meet Maui until more than halfway through the film, and it does pick up once he's there, but if Moana's ultimate journey is about literally bringing people together, then the story should be, and technically is, about getting these people on the boat to work together, but it's not all that entertaining, it's just a lot of noise. But it's not just the side characters. Another common D in recent Disney is that they seem way too focused on hailing and worshipping its own legacy. In other words, Moana 2 really can't stop sucking the first movie's side that every single musical number sounds way too similar to their original movie equivalent. Everything in this movie is a callback, from literally recapping the first movie to referencing and repeating the same jokes, to every single citizen telling Moana how awesome she is all the time. The Kakamuras again, a stormy show-off with a god at the end. The clam is the only original location, and it still looks too similar to Tamatoa's lair. Moana bees. That was cute, because that is exactly what this movie is. It is just repeating the same beats without any of its soul. Also, if you heard that there was a villain song in this movie, I'm just gonna say, no there isn't. Yes, it looks nice. Every animated movie in theaters looks nice. That's the bare minimum we expect. Now, all that said, what I will say is that if I was to look at it from a financial or corporate level, I do sort of get it. Since the streaming bubble burst and everyone realized that streaming didn't actually make any money, Disney could have released the original series on Plus, been reasonably pleasant, but at the end of the day, it would have been just another forgettable streaming series that no one remembered, and made virtually nothing from it. Or you could have put it in theaters, and you could have actually gotten something out of it, if not actually quite a lot from it. And sure, at least part of Disney's problem is that people are always holding it to higher standards than literally everyone else. And with everything else stripped away, the expectations and the standards, this is just another meh Hollywood CGI film, and isn't awful but isn't special, that has some moments and I just didn't care for it. Do you realize what you've done? You've basically just told DreamWorks the next time they make a Megamind 2, they should just bite the bullet and put it in theaters no matter how bad it is. And I would be a little bit more understanding if this movie was just one anomaly and not evidence of a massive trend of treading water. Because the point is, it is Disney. You have the brand and the name and the money and the access to talent if you put in the effort, you just clearly don't want to. Anything as long as you hit that Pixar summer release date and the Disney Thanksgiving release date, which you have technically failed every year this decade. If all you have to go on now is your backlog and your name and your reputation, that has been deteriorating greatly this decade, and you don't seem to be doing anything to fix it. And it's why, even though this movie is just meh, makes me so mad. But at the same time, this is a situation where if you literally were not going to do the movie any other way, the premise itself is what killed it. Songs from Lin-Manuel Miranda probably wouldn't have fixed this. The songs would have been better, but the premise would have still been underwhelming. I don't begrudge people who go and enjoy it, but aside from some scant moments, I really just couldn't, and I certainly do not encourage people to reward this kind of lazy attitude by seeing it in theaters when there are so many better things you could be watching at home. To say nothing about the good stuff that already came out this year. One thing that just came out was Memoirs of a Snail from the creator of Mary and Max is now on Amazon, and it is an absolute masterpiece. It will absolutely be nominated for Best Animated Feature this year, and Moana 2 will definitely not.